Welcome to Thieves' Cant, a tabletop gaming podcast with your hosts, Jeremy Shane and Chris White.
Welcome in and welcome back. It is Thieves' Cant, Tuesday, February 10th. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
Thank you so much for listening, subscribing at thievescantcast, email thievescantcast@gmail.com. Chris, hope you're doing well.
Still getting over my cold, but...
Yeah, been a little snuffy?
Yeah, I'm not 100% yet.
Yeah. Hey, we're looking for good home remedies.
Yeah, it's got to be legal.
Do you do anything like...
Dayquil, NyQuil, that's me.
Yeah, just chugging it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even use that little cup. I just down it.
I'll decide how much I need.
That's right. I know my body.
I'll not be bossed around by this cup.
That's right.
Hey, today it's Unearthed Obscura, all about real-world strangeness to fuel your tabletop role-playing game. So prepare to get a little weird. This is a story that I had never heard of before, but I was digging around online and ended up at medium.com and found this fascinating story written up by Nikita Gomes. So we are going to go on a little trip to Germany. It's 1984.
It's already scary.
Okay. And we've got a man by the name of Günther Stoll. He's a 34-year-old German food engineer. Anshausen, West Germany. So in the months before his death, people say he had started to exhibit increasing paranoia. And he had mentioned to his wife on at least one occasion that they were after him, though he never named anyone.
Okay.
So October 25th, 1984, it's about 11 o'clock at night. Stoll is at home and abruptly exclaims something to the effect of, "Now I understand." He gets up, grabs a piece of paper and a pencil, and he writes down the 6 letters YOGTZE, and then almost immediately crosses out the E. So you're left with YOGTZ.
Okay.
A few minutes later, he puts on his jacket, drives to a nearby pub. So now we're somewhere between 11 o'clock and midnight. At the pub, he orders a beer, but before he even takes a single drink, he collapses. Witnesses thought he was having a seizure or had fainted, or maybe he was already drunk, but no, he hadn't drank a thing. He comes to. He's all right, gets up, leaves the pub, drives over 60 miles away toward the Hagen area. He had no clear reason for being there, according to those who know him.
All right.
Around 3 a.m. on the 26th, so same night, 2 truck drivers find him crashed in a ditch. He was severely injured, bleeding everywhere. He's wearing nothing from the waist down, and he was found in the passenger seat rather than the driver's seat, barely conscious when they find him. But he's able to whisper that 4 men had been with him and that they, quote, weren't my friends. He dies on the way to the hospital.
Okay.
Police noted that the car damage and his injuries didn't really line up with a typical crash scenario, like there was no blood in the driver's seat. His injuries suggested that he was hurt prior to the crash. The pants were never found. The note that he had scrawled at home with the letters,
the
YOGTZ, that was found in his jacket pocket.
So I guess that doesn't mean anything in German.
Well, let's talk about some of the possible solutions they thought that they might have.
Okay.
All right. So some believe that the letters are one shift away from a German word, as you suggest, Chris. When shifted on a keyboard or an alphabet grid, some patterns resemble words connected to drugs or companies or places. None have been definitively proven. Others think it wasn't letters, but numbers and letters combined, 6 instead of a G.
That's a zero too,
or Y0GTZ. So it could be a 0, could be a 6. So that could match European license plates formats. If Gunter noticed a vehicle tailing him, that could have been him writing down the license plate that he remembered. But they never found a car that matched. Some theories suggest it could be shorthand for a workplace issue, like a chemical formula or internal code related to his job as a food engineer. If he had uncovered wrongdoing at work, the they that he mentioned might have been colleagues or corporate figures, but police were never able to confirm anything in that regard. What they did lean toward was a psychological breakdown. They suggested he imagined being followed. He suffered a mental health crisis. He crashed accidentally and then fabricated the story about 4 men. But then what about the unexplained injuries? What about his position in the car? What about the missing clothing? Authorities searched for witnesses. No one saw Gunter with other people that night. So why was he there? What was he doing driving in that direction? Nobody knew. There's no suspects, no decoded message, no clear crime scene. And so the case eventually stalled out. So the more you line up the facts, the less they cooperate. A man says he's being followed. He has a sudden moment of clarity. He writes something down, and he ends up dead under circumstances that don't quite fit. So you can choose accident. You can say it was a conspiracy. You can say it was a mental collapse. But none of those are clean answers. There's conflicting information for all of them.
My first thought is that perhaps Gunter had received a chain letter and didn't pass it along to 10 other people. And this is what happens to you.
That could be.
Or he failed his sanity check. That might be it too.
All right, so that's the story. But now let's talk about how we can translate this into our tabletop RPG.
There's a lot of elements here. More than likely your PCs are going to, I would imagine, sort of be presented with a similar situation where, wow, this guy was found dead. You have this mysterious note. Doesn't make any sense.
Anytime we're doing Unearthed Obscura, I often go Call of Cthulhu. It's a natural connection to that system and the premise of that system, which is mystery.
Right, and that system is tied, it feels more to our reality.
So, if you're familiar with Masks of Nyarlathotep and the driving factor, what kicks everything off, is the death of an NPC.
Right.
One that the characters, the player characters are familiar with. So for me, that is how you could use this.
Right.
This Gunter figure is someone that the characters are familiar with, someone they know. And maybe he does start to display some paranoia, but nothing so much that it would cause major concern for anyone until they get the news of what happened this one night.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. And I think that's a really good point. Because if you use an established NPC that the party has a good relationship with, they've come to trust, particularly someone who's reliable, someone that this would be very out of character for, they're going to automatically have motivation and reason to not believe the story that's being publicly shared.
Right.
In other words,
that the authorities are putting out there.
Right.
Yeah, the impact for a party, if they know the NPC, is so much greater than if it's just a task for them with, some poor sap.
Yeah, you have a vested interest. Plus, it's just the mystery's there because there's no way Gunter would have done this. If you don't know Gunter, maybe Gunter was a nut job from the beginning. You have nothing to base that off of.
Right.
But if you know who this person was, yeah, it's possible they had a mental break, but it's also possible something else was going on.
If we were to take this and make it a little less familiar, if this were science fiction, if this were fantasy, if this were, superheroes role-playing game, like how would you approach it from any of those genres?
In a superhero game, I could look at this and I could just say, well, maybe some powerful psionic scrambled his brain. maybe he was being mind controlled or, whatever that case may be. Whereas in a science fiction game, it may not be so apparent. Maybe we suspect there's an alien presence or something beyond the normal. In a fantasy setting, was he impacted by some sort of charm or magic? Or was some creature controlling him? Or, there's, countless scenarios there. It's sort of, you're going to try to solve this based on the framework of your reality. Whatever is common there is going to be your first response.
I think this would be a lot of fun to dig into as a GM. Some of the questions that you get to answer for yourself. Who are they? What did he scrawl? You could keep these same letters, or you could change that detail.
Right.
In fact, I would change that detail depending on what your setting is.
It could be a symbol.
It could be a symbol. It could be a different combination of letters or numbers.
Yeah.
It could be a phrase that the characters can actually read,
right?
But they just don't know what it means in this context.
Right.
I would have fun answering those questions for myself as I'm kind of assembling the mystery.
There's a lot of potential for fun here. That's what's amazing about these. Is you can have a story like this, a very simple story, where it just sounds like a guy went nuts, wrecked his car and died, right? But it's when you start digging into it and really letting your imagination go, you could go in a lot of different directions. This could introduce a whole adventure arc.
How would you utilize this bit of lore in your game? You can let us know in the comments. You can email thievescantcast@gmail.com. And hey, we'll see you back tomorrow as we enter the Forge of Creation. We'll get those creative juices flowing.
Always look forward to that.
So until then, thanks for listening to Thieves Cant. We hope you have a good one. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
Solo.
Thank you for listening to Thieves Cant. Email thievescantcast@gmail.com.